as Bear Grylls. I've served with the British Special Forces, I've climbed to the summit of Everest, and crossed the frozen oceans of the Arctic. Now, I'm going to show how to survive one of the most treacherous landscapes on Earth, Alaska. Over 1 million tourists come here every year, and over 500 go missing. I'm going to show the skills needed to stay alive. Wow, This is the coast of Alaska, just below the Arctic Circle. Its extraordinary landscape is made up of endless coastline, deep forests, and huge glaciers. I'm going to Mount Chugach in Alaska. It's where mountaineers, hikers, and skiers come to enjoy the wilderness. But with the thrill comes danger, and every year over 20 people die. I'm going to show how to survive in a wilderness like this. Any moment now, the pilot is going to drop me onto the top of one of these mountains.
You've got about 400 feet to touchdown. 100 feet. 50 feet.
If needed, I'll get some help from local experts, and a camera crew will follow my journey. 17 of the highest mountains in the US are here in Alaska. It's every extreme skier's idea of heaven. With so few people and so much space, this is one of America's true wildernesses.
Just beautiful. Being out of these mountains. Amazing.
The biggest threat to skiers is avalanche. They kill around 40 people every year in North America. One wrong turn and the whole mountainside could come crashing down on you. You need to know how to avoid them. The key with avalanches is to read the snow, and you can use the ski pole in front of you just to test it, to see whether it's compacted or whether it's in layers. And what you want is when you push it in, it's nice and consistent. But if you push it down and it suddenly drops a little bit, it's a sign it's in layers, and that's the dangerous stuff. Avalanches are often triggered by inexperienced skiers and snowboarders who come to enjoy the 40 foot of virgin snow which can often fall here. In early 2006, a snowboarder from Anchorage triggered a 200 foot wide avalanche on a slope just like this. His body was eventually recovered 3 months later. He'd fallen 1,600 feet. I've skied about 5,000 feet, and at last I'm leaving the high snow faces behind. There is so much rock, and it's becoming impossible to ski any further. All these skis would do is slow you down. You'd be better off without them. Below me is a glacier, literally a river of ice, and like a river, this glacier flows downhill. I'm gonna follow this ridge. It's not easy, and the temperature is dropping fast. Temperatures here in Alaska can reach as low as minus 60 degrees, and frostbite is always a danger in the mountains. And the bits to watch out for are your extremities, your hands, your feet, your face, and the signs that you are getting it is that your skin goes this waxy red colour and eventually black. And I've seen very severe frostbite on climbers on Everest, and it's a really horrible, painful thing. This ridge has led to a north-facing slope. This gets less sunlight, so it's still covered in snow. This weather's not looking so good. Getting caught out in bad weather can be fatal, so you need to get down fast. But this slope is over 300 foot. I could down climb, but it would take hours. Instead, I'm going to show you a technique that mountaineers call a glissade. As you slide down, you slow yourself by digging in your ice axe. I don't have an ice axe, so I'm breaking a ski stick in half instead. Really see this cloud now. Moving in, I can hardly even see the bottom of this glissade. And I'm pretty nervous about doing this. This technique is risky, but in an emergency, it can save your life. If you don't apply enough pressure, you'll fall too fast, but push in too hard, and the stick can get ripped right out of your hands. That was fast. I've done a few glissades before, but never anything that steep and that long. And I reckon I hit 50 miles an hour on that. And that's like speeding 5 time. Whew. I've reached a glacier, and there are over 100,000 of these in Alaska. They form the largest reservoir of fresh water on Earth. But the bad news is they're full of crevasses, deep valleys of ice, often covered by layers of snow. And the only safe way to travel is to be roped and in pairs. There's solid ground running alongside the glacier, but keeping my footing in these ski boots is almost impossible. Ah, look, I see the end of the glacier. And yeah, that's definitely where it comes out, and that's just such a relief. I'm nearly off the snow and ice, but the glacier still has one final sting in its tail, a sheer cliff. This is literally now the bottom of the glacier, and this moraine is just dropping off in this like 40-foot waterfall. And there's no way in these boots and without ropes I'm going to make it down this. And I need another plan. I've been dropped into the remote, icy mountains of Alaska, and now I have to get off this glacier. But my way down is blocked by a 40-foot waterfall. But there's another way. There's an ice tunnel into the glacier. This is formed by meltwater streams which run under the ice. But this one could lead me out. Ice tunnels are extremely unstable places, and glaciers can move up to 60 feet a day. Before you go in, check the ice is solid. There could be over 200 feet of ice above me, and at any moment it could come crashing down. Only do this as a last resort. I'm finding it quite claustrophobic in this place. I don't know if you can come just see around, but this is not a good place to be. I was almost killed on a glacier like this on Everest, where I had a crevasse give way under my feet, and it's not bringing back great memories being in here. I just want to get out now. And the further you go in, the harder it is to go back. Then I see daylight ahead. It's my way out. I've never been so relieved. And finally, I'm off the glacier. It's just so good to be out of that glacier and just have some open space. But the best news of all is that I'm going to get these running boots off. And that's so nice. And I'm going to keep these inners. They're not ideal to walk in, but I'm going to need something to protect my feet in the tougher terrain that's going to be ahead now. Here off the mountain, there should be food and shelter. I'm just getting dive bombed by these seagulls, and that's a sign that I've probably walked through an area that they're nesting, and they're just trying to protect their eggs. What I'm going to try and do is see if I can find one of their nests and actually find maybe some eggs to eat. It's June, prime nesting season, and each nest could have 2 or 3 eggs, each one packed with protein, vitamins and minerals. I've scoured all of these banks and I just can't find what these guys were protecting. The landscape is beginning to open up and I can see the tree line ahead. But now it's starting to rain. But at least finally I'm almost in the forest. This is good news. I'm just seeing now the clouds clearing. I can see it's thick forest down there, but also what looks like a deep gorge. And there might well be a river at the bottom of that, and that's what I want to be heading for. I can only see a couple of feet ahead of me now, and it's strangely claustrophobic. I know this is bear country. Both black and brown bears live here. Brown bears can weigh up to 1,100 pounds, grow to 9 feet tall, and can tear a man apart. Look, you can actually see where the bear here has been scratching along the tree, and this is what they do. They come along, they scratch, and they rub their back against it, and you can see actually where the bear's fur is there, and this is all part of it, just marking its territory. A hiker was recently killed here. When rangers found the remains of his body, they discovered bear blood at the scene and empty gun shells. The hiker fired 2 shots at the bear, but that was not enough to stop the attack. But big groups rarely get attacked for one simple reason. Lots of people means lots of noise, and that warns off the bear. It's when you're alone that you're vulnerable. Bears are at their most dangerous when they're surprised. And actually most attacks happen on hunters, just because they're always sneaking around, and it's why it's really important when you're on your own to keep making lots of noise and let these bears know that you're here. And it might sound a bit weird, but I'm doing a lot of wandering around at the moment going, yo bear, but just trying to keep them away. Yo bear! Yo bear! Yo bear! However much noise I make, I still feel uncomfortable. This is bear crap, and the good news is that you can see in this poo little seeds from berries, and that means there are going to be berries somewhere around nearby. The bad news is it means there's a bear around somewhere. This is only about a day old. This undergrowth is vicious. Every step hurts. This is all Devil's Club, which must be the spikiest, thorniest plant I've ever come across. Just look, you can see all the spikes all the way along all the stems.
See, look at that. God, look at all the spikes on that.
All the way down the stalk, all the leaves as well, just covered in it. And when the flowers come out, even they have spikes on it. And the roots, and it's just hell to walk through. But for Alaskan natives, this is one of the most revered medicinal plants, just full of loads of good things, lots of ginseng. But to walk through, It is not good.
Yeah.
It's claimed that ginseng increases your strength and your stamina.
See the spikes on that thing? Jesus.
The stream has made a clearing through the Devil's Club. This should lead to a river and a way through the forest. It means I can move fast now, but this wilderness is so unpredictable. After several hundred yards, there's a major obstacle, a huge waterfall.
It's a choice. Go down this or go back into the Devil's Club. And neither option feels like a good one.
Yeah, I know. Kaylee's daughter is a cutie. Kaylee's daughter was a cutie, is a cutie pie.
I'm in the Alaskan forest. I've been following a stream, but there's an obstacle. This waterfall. It's over 200 foot, and even with a safety line, it's risky. But I'm an experienced climber. I'm going to show how to get down it. The most important thing when you start down here is to take your time. And so many accidents happen climbing is the adrenaline gets going and you rush it. And I'll tell you, you can get it right 1,000 times, but you only need one mistake for it to all go wrong. These rocks are incredibly slippery, and it's easy to make mistakes. To make it down, I'll need to follow some basic climbing rules. Let your legs take the pressure. You know, so many people try and always climb with their arms, and your arms give up. Your legs are much, much stronger. And just use your arms to steady you and to balance you. There's loads of loose rocks, so I have to test every handhold. The force of the water now about halfway down is making it much harder. It's like trying to down climb whilst giving someone a piggyback. Okay. The final bit is almost vertical. This freezing glacial water is a torrent, and it's pushing me down hard. And the cold is making it much worse. This water is just so cold, and my hands are getting so numb up there I can hardly hold on. But I tell you what, looking back up there, that is much steeper than I ever thought it was going to be when I started down. Whew. It's like nearly 24 hours a day here in the summer, and it's easy to lose track of time. But it's important to take a rest when you need to. With soaking wet clothes, you'll need a fire to dry them out. And in a survival situation, there's nothing better for morale than a fire. There are nearly 6 million acres of forest in Alaska,
And much of it is covered in spruce and alder, both of which are great for building shelters. To build the shelter, I'm going to need like 10 or so of these alder saplings. And the best way of cutting these is to bend it over until you see the stress out of it. And then when those fibres are under stress, you can just show it with a knife and it will cut through. You can recognise an alder by the leaves. They're serrated and they grow alternately up the stem. And I'm using the spruce for the roof. I'm making what's called a half-dome shelter. It's simple and it's fast. To waterproof it, you start at the bottom, then move up, putting one layer on top of the one below. And then I need fire. I always carry a flint to light a fire. Normally this willow down makes excellent kindling, but it's damp So lighting this fire is going to be a struggle. And that's used up half of it. The first failed attempt. Black bears kill fewer people than grizzlies, but in 90% of their attacks, they literally stalk humans as prey. Many locals carry a gun. People often think that grizzly bears are the really dangerous ones. But in this part of Alaska, the most dangerous bears are actually the black bears. And if one approaches you, depending on which it is, you need to react differently. If it's a brown bear, the chances are it's a territorial issue. And the best thing you can do is just be submissive and back off. If it's a black bear, the chances are it's after you. And in that case, you're going to have no choice apart from to fight for your life.
Yeah,
Your body has an internal clock, which makes you sleep when it's dark and wake when it's light. So in a place like this, where it's only dark for 4 hours, a full night's sleep is always going to be hard.
Yeah. But see, I know my internal clock tells me I need to take a rest.
It's now 5 a.m. and it's already light. I'm awake and a little cranky.
It's still raining. And I'm getting a bit cheesed off. But I think that's all right when you've been wet all night. I think you're allowed to be a bit cheesed off.
I'm going to carry on following the same stream that I followed yesterday. I've seen a river at the bottom of the valley, and that's where I need to get to. But following the river is not easy. Lots of smaller streams flow into it, so I'm constantly forced to cross them.
Flowing this. And these glacial rivers are deceptively fast and cold. It's really important to stay facing upstream so you can fight against the flow.
After several miles, the river widens. The coast should be near.
At last, the sea.
I've come out into one of the many small inlets that dot the Alaskan coastline. Your best chance of being picked up would be to be spotted by one of the many small fishing boats that fish this area.
Hey, look at this, look. It's a dead salmon. And look, there's another one over there. This is great news. It means the salmon are using this to run upstream. And this is what they do. They'll return for often like up to 200 miles out to sea. They'll find the exact same river they were born, even the same tributary, return to it, lay their eggs, and then they'll die.
The river is packed with king and pink salmon. I haven't got a fishing line with me, so I need to find another way of catching one. I'm making a spear out of wood. Here's a tree where the branches fork out in a V about 4 foot along the main stem. The first step is to clear all the other shoots and then break off the 2 branches and cut them into sharp points. These will puncture the tough skin of the fish and keep it pinned down while I grab it with my hands.
There must be 1,000 salmon in this pool down here. but it's too deep for me to be able to spear one. But I reckon if I can spook them and drive them up into the shallows, then I'll have a good chance.
My tactic's working. The fish are going just where I need them.
I can see just loads and loads of them there, and they're in about 6 inches of water. And the key is just for me to approach from downstream very steadily.
One of the salmon's main predators are eagles, which swoop in from above, so the fish are highly sensitive to shadows. If they see mine, they'll be off. I'm waiting for the perfect opportunity. As I stand motionless, the fish start to come closer, but they always seem to be just out of my reach.
And they say the key for fishing is patience. I'm probably the least patient person you'll ever meet.
Now, I'm going to take a more aggressive approach. Throwing the spear around gets me nowhere, and my impatience finally gets the better of me.
Whoa! I had it. It's like... that was so close.
I give up, but one of the crew has more luck.
You can eat these things straight out of the river like that. That is like the freshest Alaskan salmon you can possibly have.
I've always liked sushi, and in the local Ayak communities, the annual fish runs were the primary food source for the entire year. Fish are packed full of protein, and the scales are small on a salmon, so you can eat the skin as well, as it contains high levels of fat, just what my body needs to keep moving. I'm going to take full advantage of this feast.
Must be some fresh fish.
I might be out of the forest, but I know that I'm still surrounded by bears. They come down here to fish.
Hey, look at this, look. This is why you've got to be so careful around here. Look, you can see where a bear has obviously come down and plonked his fat backside down here and started to feast on this salmon. But amazing, you actually see, look, the imprint of where he's been. And actually you can see the bit that is eaten is all the belly fat and the eggs and the guts. That's the most fat and protein rich, and then it just leaves the rest of it. But this is why you've got to be so careful out here.
If you know what to look for, there are all sorts of berries and plants you can eat with your fish.
This is Eskimo potato, this plant here. If I pull this up, and get to the root of it, this is all edible. At this time of year, it's all a bit stringy. And the best way really is to, you know, roast this on a fire. But you can eat this raw. It's a bit muddy, but a really, really good food source. And many people say it's the most valuable food source in all of Alaska.
These roots are full of starch and carbohydrate. It's hardly a gourmet dinner, but it'll keep me going a little longer. It's been a tough day. Caves are ready-made shelters, but are often already occupied by wildlife, including bears. This one is so shallow that I know it's safe, and it's a perfect place to stop. The high walls mean that nothing can sneak up on me from behind. But Alaska still has so much to throw at me.
Wow, that is...
Now I'm on the coast here in Alaska, there's an abundance of food, especially on the beach at low tide.
This rock is just covered in these mussels, and it's a great source of food. I'm gonna get a load of this and then cook it up later. And this is actually, part of the staple diet of a lot of local Alaskan tribes.
Shellfish should always be cooked properly first, so I need fire. Old Man's beard grows on the branches of trees and it burns easily, but I need to find wood as well.
Yeah, this is sort of dead wood that I want. Wood that's dead on the ground is often covered in moss, is really damp, but this is great because it's off the ground and it's dry and it should crack. And a good way of telling if wood's good for burning, if you hear that crack, it sort of sounds like the crackle when it's actually burning on fire, and that's a good sign. It's good wood for burning.
With no pan to cook them in, I've surrounded the mussels with 2 layers of seaweed.
This effectively like steams them, and this should take about 10 minutes to cook.
When you're collecting them, tap the mussels. If they don't close, they're already dead, so leave them. But once cooked, they should be open.
Wow, those really are good.
Down here on the coast, I can show you how to get yourself seen by any passing boats.
I've got such good visibility all the way out to sea here, and it's definitely worth, while I am here, getting a signal fire going. And all I'm doing is building this back up again, and then I'm going to put on top of it a load of evergreen branches, and these will smoke. And if anyone's passing, they might well see this.
It's vital to create white smoke to contrast with the dark background of the trees behind me. But nature is conspiring against me.
You notice here the smoke's not rising very well into the air. It actually looks as if it's like getting pushed down. And that's a sign that low pressure might well be on its way. So even though it's beautiful blue skies at the moment, it might well be getting much worse.
Better keep moving. But it's tough going. The shoreline constantly swells in and out of these deep bays. But over on the bank are some buildings. They look like a fishing lodge. But the paths are overgrown and the building is a shambles. Alaska has a history of boom and bust. The coastline is littered with disused gold mines, tinning factories, and from what I can see, old lodges. I'm sure at one time this place would have been bustling with trekkers, but today it's deserted.
Here, but I'll tell you what. This is a view you want to build your house looking at. Look at that. Just beautiful over the mountains of the glacier. Amazing.
And a beautiful glacier like this could provide your way out of here. These coastal glaciers are notorious tourist hotspots, and there might well be a boat there. But it looks miles away.
This is great, look.
Little boats are often used by these lodges, and as a last resort, you should use one. I just need a paddle, and this spade will do the job. If you take a boat from the shoreline, you can never be absolutely sure it's watertight. Next, I'll show you what happens if your boat begins to take on water in this icy sea. I'm in a basic skiff, and I'm slowly working my way along the coastline. On foot, it would take you days to walk around these endless craggy inlets. But boats can often be a risk, and in a moment, I'll show you what can happen.
There's a story of a father and his teenage kids who ran aground in a winter storm, and they waited 10 days for rescue, but it never came. And the father then made the very difficult decision to leave his teenage girls whilst him and his son went off to look for help. And they eventually found an old log cabin, but there was no signs of life, and a storm then came in, and it was 6 days before the weather broke, and he assumed his daughters would have been killed. But when it did break, they found an old skiff, managed to repair it, and used that to get back to his daughters, who amazingly were still alive. And then a day later, they were all rescued.
I've entered a bay full of sea ice, and as I go on, the ice thickens. Soon ice blocks are all around me. They may look magnificent, but they can cause serious damage to even a large boat. And in 1989, the Exxon Valdez, a 33,000-ton oil tanker, went to ground in Alaska while trying to avoid icebergs just like these.
Just amazing, this place. I'll tell you, out of all the places I've been, I don't think I've ever seen a landscape so extraordinary. And just thousands of these little, icebergs just floating around. And all of these would have just peeled off these glaciers that are tumbling down into the sea. And some of these bits of ice, they can be up to 5,000 years old. And it's just an amazing landscape to be on.
You can only ever see the tip of an iceberg, as 90% is submerged. As ice melts faster when it comes into contact with water, eventually the bergs become top-heavy and roll, often violently.
This ice is beginning to close in a bit now. And it's so disorientating trying to work out where you are. Just because all of these things move with the current. What looks like a gap 1 minute, then suddenly closes up in front of you. It's just so hard to get through this stuff. It's like rock. You can see how much damage these things can do.
Come here, Rudy.
And if your boat takes in water,
I need to get to land. If you see that spit of land, all that gravel, that's when it goes.
the camera crew are in protective clothing. I am not. My only option is to swim for it.
This thing is just going now.
But first, I've got to take some clothes off, or they're going to really weigh me down.
It completely goes. Don't sink yet, don't sink yet. It's just that tiny little bit of buoyancy keeping it up. This thing is on its last leg, just that buoyancy at the bow. Wow, that is...
The shock of hitting this water makes me gasp, and the danger is sucking in a big lungful of air and water, and that's how people drown. My heart rate has gone through the roof, and I'm beginning to hyperventilate. In some people, this can induce a heart attack.
Get this cotton off.
Cotton literally sucks the heat out of your body. It's a killer when wet. If you get soaked in a cotton t-shirt and a pair of jeans in conditions like this, you need to get them off fast. You'll survive longer naked.
and this stuff is all glacial water. And seawater freezes at a much lower temperature than normal water, so effectively that's like colder than ice.
My fingers and toes are so numb. I need to get the blood flowing back. My jacket has stayed dry in the backpack, and this will warm me up. The glacial bay opens up into the sea.
I can just see for miles all the way up and down the coastline here. And I'm just going to take stock and try and warm up a bit on some of these rocks. And not move anywhere until I just get dry and properly warm.
This would be a perfect spot to wait. Fishing boats, as well as tourist boats, often sail into these inlets, and it's not hard to see why people come. It's beautiful. I'm heading off further down the beach to see what I can find. And a boat has been sent to pick me up.
Hey, look! Hey! Woo!
And I'm gonna do everything I can to attract their attention. They've seen me. This has been an incredible journey, from harsh mountain peaks to these icy seas. Alaska is a place where we can truly come close to nature, and that for me is its real magic.
Millions of people have lost weight with personalized plans from Noom, like Evan, who's a picky eater but still found success with Noom.
I started going through pictures. I was significantly larger than I am now. You a big boy. You gotta do something about this. Salads generally are the easy button. For me, that wasn't an option. I never really was a salad guy. That's just not who I am, but Noom worked for me. I'm not doing this to get to a number. I'm doing this to feel better. I've lost 50 pounds using Noom.
Get your personalized plan today at Noom.com.
My name is Bear Grylls. I've served with the British Special Forces, climbed to the summit of Everest, and explored the frozen oceans of the Arctic. Now, I'm heading for one of the most active volcanoes in the world, Kilauea, in Hawaii. Millions of people come to see the flowing lava, and each year 50 get stranded. I'm going to show you how to survive. I'm in the middle of the Pacific Ocean, flying towards the island of Hawaii, where the Kilauea volcano has been erupting since 1983. Each year, 2 million tourists flock to these lava fields, drawn by the glow of the molten rock. But it's easy to get injured or lost in this barren and dangerous landscape. I'm going to put myself in the position of a tourist stranded here to show you how to survive. All I've got is a water bottle, a knife, and a flint.
Any minute now, the pilot's going to drop me onto the volcano. It's late afternoon, and in a few hours, it'll be dark up here.
A camera crew will follow my journey.
The lava down there is too unstable to land on, so I'm going to have to go down on a rope.
I'm about to drop into a dormant crater somewhere on the volcano's upper slopes.
Look at this place. It's just so intimidating.
This volcano is incredibly dangerous. Only a few feet beneath me is a lake of molten rock whose temperature is over 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit, and seeping out of the ground are noxious volcanic gases. I've got to find a way out and back to civilization. But which is the best way to go? I'm going to get above the crater to get my bearings.
Wow, look at that. It's like I've landed on the surface of, like an alien planet.
The landscape is featureless and utterly forbidding. Easy to see why people get lost here.
It's just this miles and miles of desolate terrain. I can tell this stuff is going to be a nightmare to try and cover.
If you are lost here, try to work out a route to the sea, because it's by the sea that most Hawaiians live.
What I do know is that this volcano is on the south side of the island, and the best way of finding civilization is to head to the coast. So that means my nearest bit of coast is going to be to the south.
I'm going to use the sun as a compass. It's late afternoon and the sun is in the west, which means that south must be this way. The island is roughly 80 miles wide and long, which means the ocean can't be more than 40 miles away. But walking on this jagged terrain is extremely difficult. Most accidents happen on the volcano when people slip or fall, and losing your footing out here can easily result in a broken leg. A few years ago, a tourist died when a section of cooled lava on which he was standing gave way and he fell into the ocean. Even for experienced hikers, it can take an hour just to walk half a mile. Sulfur dioxide gas forms in volcanoes, and here it's really thick.
Look at this, you can actually see the sulfur dioxide here seeping out of these vents. And this is a sign that what I'm standing on here is literally straight above real flowing lava, probably about 3 or 4 foot directly under me.
Volcanologists measure these emissions, looking for signs that a volcano may be about to erupt. I've got to keep moving.
This sulfur just has this real stench, and it's getting quite unpleasant. It's got this like bitter, sharp taste. It's getting right in the back of my throat. It's just not very nice.
High concentrations, this gas is a killer. A few years ago, a helicopter crash left a film crew stranded for 3 days on this volcano. They only survived by using their t-shirts as gas masks. So that's what I'm going to do. That's hard. My lungs just feel like they're just on fire, and it's horrible, horrible stuff. I was running out of puff back there, but it's looking much clearer now ahead. But I just need a couple of minutes to get my breath back. I'm through the sulfur, but the gas is a sign that molten lava is close to the surface. This whole area is getting really hot now, and I keep seeing these little windows dropping down to the lava tube below. Holes in the surface like this are known as skylights. Beneath them are streams of lava flowing through tunnels called lava tubes. The temperature down there is about 2,000 degrees Fahrenheit. If the thin crust gave way, I'd be incinerated in seconds. But there is a way of crossing an area like this, and this is how. Very gingerly, test it with your boot, and if your boot melts, it means it's too hot to cross. I'm gonna go for this now, but the camera crew are gonna wait here, so if we try to do this together, the size might well give in. Here goes. Whoa! My boot started to melt on that. That's too hot there. What you've got to watch out for is if the rock in front of you starts to go mushy. And if that does happen and your foot starts to sink in, you've got to back away and try and find another way round. I've made it through, and this rock is much cooler now, but my feet are just on fire after that. I'm through the hottest part of the lava field now, but I've got to find food and water. The only question on this poisonous landscape is where.
Feeling from a backed up gut? Miralax works naturally with the water in your body to help you go. Free your gut and your mood will follow. For 8 grams of fiber, try Mirror Fiber Gummies.
Some of the most brilliant minds in business. No, not you. Or you. You auto-track business income and expenses with QuickBooks. And you pay all your employees easily and accurately. And you have a business bank account with market-leading APY. Get the full picture of your business on one platform. Now with expert help when you need it. That's how you business differently.
Nothing scary about Energizer Ultimate Lithium. The #1 longest-lasting AA battery.
I want to have some fun. Now at Topgolf, you get half-off gameplay Monday through Wednesday when you book in the app. It's kind of like we took those 3 days and made them much better days. It's golf. It's half-off golf Monday through Wednesday when you book in the app.
The temperature on the volcano is overpowering. Dehydration is a big danger for stranded tourists on these unforgiving lava fields. The volcano is not a good place to be without something to drink. I'm just getting a bit worried that I'm getting low on water now. And I know you're supposed to be able to survive 3 days without it, but to be honest, the way I feel at the moment, in this heat, I'm going to struggle to make it through 1. The volcano gets around 120 inches of rainfall a year, but the lava is so porous, almost all of it drains away. And the surface water that remains soon evaporates in the 90-degree heat. Much of the rain that falls near the volcano's active crater is contaminated by sulfurous gases, turning it into acid rain. In this environment, very few plants can live. As I get further away from the active crater, I'm starting to see more and more plants. The lava fields of Kilauea were once covered with lush rainforest, and some sections still remain. These are called kipukas. They range from tiny outcrops of vegetation to large islands of jungle. But in there is going to be my best chance of finding food and water. One of the difficulties of this whole volcanic region is that there's no streams or rivers or lakes. But my best chance of finding water is going to be in here, in the jungle, either in a hollow or in a cave. But it's going to be hard finding anything in this dense undergrowth.
Hey, look at this. Avocados. And this is an avocado tree, and this is good news for me. I love avocados. I want to see if I can get some of these down.
Avocados grow on the high
branches of the trees to protect the fruits from predators.
I should be able to use some of these ivy trees to shin up there. This last bit. And that is what I'm after. I'm just so hungry. I'm going to eat this up here. I'm not going to wait to get down. Try and get the position, get my knife out. And then just get this skin off.
Avocados are one of nature's superfoods, full of calories, protein, and good fat.
That's amazing. I just love avocados. If I was ever stranded on a desert island, this would be the one of the foods I'd take. And mayonnaise. And chocolate.
With a full stomach, it's time to get going again. I'm heading for the coast because that's where I find people. I want to get there as quickly as I can. I don't want to spend a night in this jungle.
That was a result. I've got one for later.
But I still haven't found any water. Last year, a lost hiker survived a week on this volcano before he was rescued. He kept himself alive by sucking water from clumps of moss. But what I'm looking for is running water. Water that has been lying in a pool of rock could be stagnant, and stagnant water is a breeding ground for bacteria, or it may be contaminated by animal waste. Then I spot something which could lead me to fresh drinking water.
Wow, look at this. It's actually a lava tube, and at one point lava would have flowed all the way through this on its journey down to the sea.
Hawaii is dotted with old lava tubes, underground tunnels that once carried lava from the volcano to the sea. For me, it's a place where water might collect. Where I'm standing was once a roof of the lava tube, but it's collapsed, creating this huge hole. That's my route in, but it looks like a drop of about 40 feet. It's going to be risky, but I have to find a way down. put myself in the position of a lost tourist on the Kilauea volcano in Hawaii to show you how to survive and find a way out. I'm trying to get into a collapsed lava tube to find water, but there's a drop of about 40 feet.
These trees here, they're called ahia trees, and what they do, they run over the edge and their roots run exposed straight down to the floor, and what they're doing is looking for water straight down, looking for moisture, and I should be able to use these to climb down. It's just they're covered in all of this moss and it's a little bit slippy.
Old lava tubes like this can be dangerous places. Recently, an American firefighter survived a 100-foot fall into one near here during a search and rescue mission.
What's difficult here is working out which of these roots are dead and which are living. And you just got to test it before you put your whole weight on it. It's so slippy, this stuff. It's just so hard to keep a grip.
I'm thirsty, but I know not to drink the first water I find.
There's a lot of moisture down in this cave, but the water itself can be contaminated down here just because animals will often fall into these skylights and then die. And really, I want to be finding water from deeper within the actual lava tubes themselves, where I can be certain that the water's clean.
But before I head down any further, I need to make myself a torch. The nuts from the kukui tree are rich in plant oil and burn easily.
This is the actual kukui tree itself, and the nuts should be all around here now.
Native Hawaiians called them candle nuts and used them to light their homes.
And what I need to do is try and get in through this outer hard shell and grab a rock like this and give them a whack. And this is what I'm trying to get out of it, the actual nut itself.
To make the torch, I'm gonna skewer the nuts on sharp sticks. Green wood works best, as it doesn't burn so fast.
What I need to do now is thread these through these little sticks and make like a sort of kebab of nuts that are gonna slowly burn. And what you do is you light the top ones first and let it burn down that way. And each of these should last about 5 minutes. So if I put 5 of them on a stick, I've got almost half an hour of light down in these tubes. Okay, that's one.
And this little flame has another purpose that may even save your life.
And this is going to do more than just give me light in this lava tunnel. What it's also going to do is warn me of any carbon dioxide in there, and it's going to act like a bit like a canary down a mine.
One of the gases emitted by the volcano is carbon dioxide. It's invisible, odorless, and in high concentrations, it's deadly.
If I come across a pocket of it, this light will go out, and it's a sign that I also need to get out of there and quickly, otherwise I could suffocate. There's another skylight here where the roof is caved in, just like the one that I came in on. But there's no water down here that I'm going to be able to drink, so I need to keep moving on further down. Wow, look at this. These roots, you can see them here, they're just growing straight through the tunnel ceiling. And they're all just laden with moisture. There's probably enough here for me to actually fill up my whole water bottle.
Rainwater has found its way through the cracks in the ceiling of the lava tube and is dripping down the roots.
The main thing is, though, this water is filtered and it's clean and good enough probably to bottle and sell in a nice restaurant somewhere.
All I need to do is collect it.
I just can't wait to try it. This is filled up. And that is so pure. That is proper volcano water.
It's time to head back to the surface.
Whoa! Do you hear that? Listen, listen. I don't know what that was. We won't get out of here.
These old lava tubes are dangerous places. It's time to get out of here, fast.
At Olive Garden, sauce is the soul. That's why we make it from scratch every single day. Because doing a little more is what takes chicken and shrimp carbonara to the next level. What turns a table for two into a tour of Italy. And what makes sharing a first course that never ends a night you want to go on and on. Olive Garden. When you're here, you're family.
Super excited to open up my diploma from Southern New Hampshire University.
I'm nervous, I'm excited.
Okay, let's see it. Let's see it.
Oh my gosh!
Jesus G. Suarez. I did it. And it's here.
Yeah!
Next term starts soon. Visit snhu.edu.
My boy, what you doing?
I'm locking in my prize picks. I just pick more or less on player stats. If I get them right, I win big.
Yeah, like what? I got you. Oh, a black genie. If you pick 2 right,
you win 3x. Pick 4 right, you win 10x. And if you pick 6 right, you win 25x you count.
Doesn't don't get no better than this.
Oh, but it does. Because right now, Prize Picks is matching your first deposit up to $100. Prize Picks, daily fantasy made easy.
I'm in an old lava tube looking for water, but I've hit a problem.
That's what this noise was. This rockfall definitely wasn't here on my way in. And this is why these places are so dangerous. Look.
I want to get out of the lava tube as quickly as possible. My nearest exit is through the skylight I passed on the way in. That's what I'm going to head for, before there's another collapse.
This is the skylight that I passed on my way down.
But the walls are almost vertical. Climbing up is near impossible without the proper equipment, and I don't have any. But there is a way. The roots of a kukui tree are dangling into the hole.
And I should be able to use this to try and get out. It's just it's gonna be slippery, and I just hope it's gonna let me out.
Now, I need to get going again. I'm trying to find my way out to the coast, but that's not easy.
This midday sun now is really hot, and also because it's so high in the sky, it's really difficult to maintain a direction, especially in these sort of bushes where it's like, you know, it's above head height everywhere. And I feel quite claustrophobic in here. I just want to try and find some clear ground.
Finding a clearing will give me a good view of the sun, and I can use the sun's shadow to tell the direction. But in this dense bush, that's impossible. Suddenly, the trees give way. Now, it should be much easier to work out my direction. But there's a problem. I can no longer use the sun as my compass.
The sun's hidden behind clouds now, which means I can't use that to tell me which way to go. But what I can do is use the winds as a compass.
The Pacific trade winds always blow in the same direction. That's why merchant seamen long ago gave them that name.
And the trade winds run pretty consistently from the northeast. So if I keep them on this shoulder and then head in that direction, that's going to take me south and to the coast. At this latitude in the tropics, it gets dark really quickly, especially in woods like this. So I'm going to need to find some sort of shelter before it gets nighttime. Hey, look, this is going to be great, and like nature's done the work for me here.
There are no poisonous snakes or deadly spiders on this island, but there are centipedes, leeches and mosquitoes. I don't want to share my bed with any of them.
Before I build the roof, I need to put the bedding down, and this dead fern is going to make a really nice springy like mattress. And even though it's a roof that keeps me dry, it's this that keeps me warm, and this is where you lose most of your heat. Okay, now I can start to build the structure.
These giant ferns will make an ideal covering. By starting with the lower sections first and building upwards, any rain that does fall will roll off the sides and won't come through my roof.
And just put the last couple of these in, and this is going to keep this rain off that's just started. And this is one of the rare occasions where the timing of the rain is actually perfect. All I need now is to find some dead firewood.
A fire is really important, not just to keep me warm, but to keep the bugs away. The mosquitoes in this jungle are vicious, and the smoke from the fire will keep them at bay, at least for a while.
The rain's now put my fire out, which is not very clever of me to have let happen, but I fell asleep for about half an hour, and it just means now the mosquitoes are just having a field day with me, and I'm getting just bitten alive out here, and this night is just not very pleasant. And if I'm honest, I can't want to go home.
It's hard to put it into words. When I tried, life felt absurd. You left the roots of my soul. I tell myself not to lose control. I'll take it slow, but it's hard to do when you're lying like me on a line like you. You got the hands that I wanna hold. You like the room to the house of my soul.
It's morning on the Kilauea volcano. My feet are really suffering. I've got blisters from crossing the hot lava fields, but I've got to get going again.
listen. That's bees. I can definitely hear bees somewhere. And if I can just find their hive and get to the honey, that would just be ace.
Honey is full of sugars, like glucose and fructose, and it'll give me tons of energy to keep me going.
Oh, look, there they are, there, look. Look at that, you see them, they're just going mad round that little tree.
Many hives in Hawaii have been colonized by African bees, and they're much more aggressive than the native species. If these are African bees, that means big trouble.
Oh no, look, they're not liking this at all. That would be this is going to be certain mass sting if I try and grab this. No, I'm going to need another plan to be able to get that honey.
The best way to calm angry bees is with smoke, and here's how you do it.
This is what I've been looking for, these Monstera leaves. And all I do is that I take 2 of these leaves and then get a load of this dried grass that's just around here as well. Okay, what I want to do with these is just lay this one on top of that and really roll this in tight. And then roll it. And before I actually light this, I'm also going to need this face mask. And I use this old t-shirt again. And this is just to stop any of the bees going up my nose, in my mouth, or in my ears. Okay, this is ready to light. And then I just pull this top one all the way over to the bottom.
By wrapping the bundle tightly, I'm limiting the amount of air that can get to the twigs. It will smoulder and give off smoke, but won't catch light.
And first of all, I need to waft this smoke over them and try and calm them down a bit.
The smell of the smoke makes the bees return to the hive and gorge themselves on honey. Eating the honey calms them down, so I'm less likely to get stung.
Okay, I think that should do it. I've got it. Awesome. The great thing about honey is that this stuff never goes bad. Even when they find it in the pyramids, all they have to do is reheat it and it's good enough to eat again. And it's just so pure. Thanks, bees.
The honey has given me a real boost to keep pushing on, and the coast can't be far away now.
Hey guys, look, it's clearing. I really thought I'd come out of this clearing and just be able to see the coast and the sea and a really nice, like, Hawaiian beach and palm trees. But instead it's just this. And it's so demoralizing.
If I'm honest, I'm exhausted now by the volcano. I need to get off, and fast.
I'm starting to think this is a bad idea. Now you tell me. I just think we can find a better gift on Etsy's new gift mode. What? Yeah, maybe something cowgirly. Oh, cute. Let me see. Oh, I like it. I did not say it.
Happy birthday.
There's people in the cake. It's a people cake.
Don't panic. Gift easy with gift mode. New on Etsy.
Need to get your windshield fixed? SafeLight makes it easy. You can schedule it in just a few clicks, and we'll come to you with a replacement you can trust.
It's great.
That's service on your time. Schedule now.
SafeLight Repair, SafeLight Replace.
I'm heading south towards the sea, where I hope I'll find people. The ocean can't be more than a few miles away now, but in my path, it's a vast lava field, and crossing it is going to be painfully slow. Molten lava solidifies in different ways. This section formed when red-hot cinders rolled down the sides of the volcano. They cooled quickly, leaving a mass of viciously sharp rocks.
I need another plan. I'm just gonna get cut to shreds. I'm trying to move through this. Maybe see, maybe if I use my socks as gloves. Without some sort of protection, there's not going to be much left for me by the time I get out of this bit of the lava. Maybe this will help if I wear them as like gloves. And you can see how sharp this is. Look at this. Go straight through it, just a little scratch. That's why I'm going to need some sort of protection. Oh. Thank God for that. That was horrible. I'll tell you what, I've seen some really unpleasant terrains in my time, but that has to be the worst.
In the sky above me is my first clue that the ocean can't be too far away.
Look at those Kawakea birds. And that's a good sign for me. They're seabirds, and that's telling me I must be getting near to the coast now.
The birds are flying high, which means they're on their way to the sea to feed. All I need to do is follow them. But blocking my path is a series of huge cracks in the ground. These fissures are caused by the numerous earthquakes that plague the region. Others are just old lava tubes that have caved in completely.
This is a pretty big crack, this one, and this was probably formed by an earthquake, but I need to find a way across it because I'm heading that way, and there's no way I'm going to be able to jump this one. So I'm either looking for another lava bridge, or I'm going to have to climb down and then climb up the other side.
I reckon I should be able to scramble down this bit here. Hawaii is one of the most seismically active regions on the planet. But the earthquakes here aren't caused by tectonic plates shifting, but by magma moving inside the volcano.
There are at least 20 earthquakes a day on this island. And earthquakes not only open up cracks, they also close them. So I don't want to hang around long in here. Looks like I can see a way out of this crack up ahead there.
The walls of this fissure are made up of fine volcanic ash that offers little or no grip. It's vital that I test every foothold.
And this is what I've been looking for at the sea. And that big cloud of smoke is where all the lava that I've been walking over the top of runs into the sea and creates this huge plume.
I may have reached the sea, but this is a very dangerous place. Those clouds are hydrochloric acid, formed when the hot lava hits the sea. It's highly corrosive, and if I breathe it in, it's deadly poisonous.
This whole place smells like, like a chemistry lab gone very wrong.
The coast is dotted with towns and villages, and I'll be able to find people soon. But it's vital to be sure of the safest way to go.
If I went that way, it looks like there are more big steam jets over there, so I'm going to try this way.
A waterfall of lava flowing straight into the sea is spectacular, but I've got to give it as wide a berth as possible. Then, I see what I'm looking for.
Look, there's a building and a couple of trucks over there. And it's just such a relief to see signs of civilization again. And I leave with a healthy respect for the power of nature and also this volcano. And it's definitely been some of the harshest terrain I've ever known. But for me, it's definitely time to be heading home.
My journey is almost over. In few other places do we come so close to the natural forces that help shape our planet. And it's rekindled in me an overwhelming sense of wonder.
My name is Bear Grylls. I've served with the British Special Forces. I've climbed to the summit of Everest and crossed the frozen oceans of the Arctic. Now, I'm in the Sierra Nevada mountains. 5 million rafters, hikers and climbers come here every year, and each year, 200 end up in serious trouble. I'm going to show you the skills you need to survive. Flying over the vast Sierra mountain range in California. 400 miles of towering peaks, deep forests, and scorching lowlands. I'm about to put myself into the position of someone stranded out there. If needed, I'll be receiving some help from local experts, and a film crew will follow me. When parachuting over mountains, you need to be careful. The air is thinner at such high altitudes, so you'll fall much faster than normal. It's a good idea, if you can, to try to reduce the risk of injury by landing in water. There are some high alpine lakes down there, and that's the kind of place you'd need to aim for. To land on the mountain faces risks serious injury, but landing in water would give you a whole different problem.
At this height, in wet clothes, there's a real risk of hypothermia.
But which is the best way down? The slopes of the mountain face east and west. I must choose one direction. I don't want to go east. That will take me into the heat of the Nevada desert, so I'm heading west.
And while the sun's drying all this stuff out, it's a good chance just to try and get my bearings a bit out here. And on a nice day with the sun shining like this, a really easy way of finding north, south, east and west is just using shadow stick method. And all I need for this is any bit of this. This will do. All I do is jam this into the ground, and this casts a nice shadow there, and just mark it where the end of the shadow is. Then just leave it 15 minutes, and while my clothes are drying, I let that shadow slowly move. And then I'll mark the next point, and this will give me an east-west line then. It's a really simple way of just working out your direction.
There are only 6 hours of daylight left, and a night at this altitude can kill. But first, I'll show you how to collect some water. And having a supply of clean drinking water is an absolute priority. The water here looks crystal clear, but that doesn't mean it's pure. The water's stagnant, ideal growing conditions for harmful bacteria.
One of my oldest buddies from the army, I remember, drank from a lake just like this, and he ended up with really bad diarrhea and vomiting for about a week, and I don't want to risk that, so I'm going to fill my water bottle, but I'm not going to drink from it until I get a chance to boil it later on.
By now, my makeshift sundial should have told me which way to go.
I can just see how the shadow now has moved round, and this was the original marker. So, find another stone. That's where I ended up now in about 20 minutes. So that is a pretty reliable but rough east-west line. That's west, Nevada desert to the east. I don't want to go that way. West I'm going.
First, you'd need to decide which part of the mountain is easiest to descend. The warm rays of the sun have made the snow unstable. If you have to cross a face like this, it's important to be sure of each foothold you make in the snow. It's slippery, but sometimes you just gotta go for it.
A lot of the rock around here is this granite, and what you get in this granite are these like dents and these depressions. And at this time of year, when there are lots of thunderstorms, they collect this rainwater, and this stuff should be okay. What I want to watch out for, though, are things like animal crap in here. Look, this sort of thing can often lead to giardia, and the last thing, diarrhea. But this stuff is looking quite clean and should be okay.
It seems barren up here, but it's astonishing what you can find in these mountains.
It's so easy just to walk over these rocks and, not notice that actually a lot of them can be really useful. Here we go, look, this stuff, this is what's called fool's gold. It's actually pyrite. And a lot of the gold rush of the late 1800s took place around here. And people would often mistake this stuff for gold, but it's not. It was no use to them at all. But for me, this could be really useful later on.
Now I've got hold of some obsidian to show you.
Look at that. Black and sparkly and looks like glass, and that means it's obsidian. And this stuff is actually traded a lot by American Indians just to make tools out of, and it's also what they'd make their arrowheads. It's unbelievably sharp. It's still used today, and actually the sharpest blades and scalpels of the world are made out of this stuff, and I'm going to keep hold of this. It's going to be useful for me for cutting.
But keep a careful watch, as the terrain can change very quickly. It's a 350-foot drop to the bottom. To walk around could take hours, time you may not have.
Really, the safe thing to do would be to try and find another route around. These are thunderstorm clouds, and you're much, much more vulnerable and exposed to storms and lightning when you're higher up in the mountains.
I'm an experienced climber, and I'm going to try and attempt this without ropes or any other modern rock climbing aid. And here's how you do it.
And the key with coming down this sort of rock is always keeping friction on the rock through your feet and through both your hands if you can. And you don't want to be sliding, you just want to be shuffling carefully down it. When it gets steep, you want to turn over onto your stomach. See how crumbly a lot of this, the edges of this gets, and the real danger is when you get sand and gravel on the top, it becomes so slippery. And also water. Water on this granite turns it into like slick rock. And if it rains, I've got to be off this thing.
A few years ago, a teenage climber from Michigan slipped on a wet patch of similar rock on a nearby mountain. He fell and broke his ankle. Alone and unable to move, he endured 11 days of agony before he was rescued by helicopter. Many climbers are not so lucky, and people die in these mountains every year.
One of the real dangers of coming down rock like this is just all these false horizons, and it's so hard to see what is over them until you're committed, and it becomes very easy to climb yourself into a situation where you can't go up or down. Yeah, there is a certain amount of risk involved in doing this sort of climbing, and it's very easy to twist or injure your ankle, especially sliding down these sort of slab rocks.
But I've made it down the cliff, and I've reached a tree line. It's time to have another look for some water. Remember, you must make sure it's free of the parasites which cause diseases like dysentery and giardia. I'm going to show you how to make the water in this stream safe to drink.
If you're really desperate and you've got no way of boiling this water, one thing you can do to filter it and to make sure the water you're drinking doesn't have this giardia is to dig a little trench just above the level of the water. And if I like dig here, I get a stone to help. And the idea of this is as you get down below that water level, water will seep through the gravel and the sand, and that gravel and sand will clean it. And the water that comes in is brown and murky, but it is clean. And this giardia parasite is a really nasty one. It can, give you really bad diarrhea and vomiting, and it can put you out of action for up to 2 weeks. And even though it is a bit of an effort doing this, it's definitely worth it.
And even though this looks quite muddy and dirty, which it is, at least I know it's filtered. That's so nice.
My next challenge is literally staying afloat in the fast-flowing water and trying as best as I can to negotiate these rapids.